Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome
Morning.
to our weekly live stream we're doing today and Q&A. And today we have a really exciting session. We're going to be doing one about the modern workplace. And we're all living through this kind of unusual experiment right now, and part of it is us putting some thought to it. And really, our goal here today is just kind of give the amuse-bouche of our webinar we're doing next week, and talk about. And that one we're going to deep dive into like the beyond just like the thought process and the kind of like the why, and a little bit about the how, the what, and and some ideas of how to implement it in your own organization. So today, when we're talking about what we're just modern workplace, what does that mean exactly? How does that, what is, you put the two words together, what does it mean, anything? But really, I know it's kind of funny. What does anything mean? But
yeah, what are words?
That's another stream. We'll relax about that.
Yeah,
next week.
we're not going to worry about the metaphysical today. But but really, beyond just like some kind of marketing buzzword, is it really, we look at it as a kind of fundamental shift in how people are working, and some of the pieces around some of the concepts that are underlying why it is, and what does it mean exactly. So one thing we're seeing is a massive shift in the global workforce. Now think about what we're doing right now. I mean, all four of us, five of us, four of us are in separate places. I mean, we're all kind of tri-state, but we're pretty far, 50, 60, 70 miles from one another. And we're collaborating in a way in a way that's so simple and smooth. And it's not like we have very high-end technology here. This is basic off-the-shelf stuff, which is pretty amazing. And some of the numbers that we're seeing is like 70% of employees, which is like 40% of Americans are working from home once a week. I mean, that's, and we're seeing that more and more. I mean, and that's now, but it's gonna accelerate now. Obviously, it was the situation with COVID, and we don't know what's gonna happen in the future as the situation unfolds. So it's just gonna keep going, And that's the same. Like, we haven't had our office open in 3+ months. Since almost 4. Since March, and I think we've made some really great strides as a company, and things are moving forward.
Yeah, I think actually it's really interesting. I think when it first started, people were like, "What am I doing? How do I put this together?" We suddenly are working from home, and we weren't prepared. I mean, actually, a lot of our clients were prepared.
Yes, they were.
But as people are getting used to it, I think a lot of people are realizing, like, I can work from home as efficiently or more efficiently. And that's what's going to come, is that people are going to realize that they can do their work remotely, and more people are going to opt for that, and more companies are going to opt for that.
Right. And we'll get a little bit of some of the benefits, but it's definitely mutually beneficial for many companies to work remotely and kind of put together. And I think the other thing that I found myself, was the collaboration changed a lot. Instead of hey, I'm going to walk down the hall and kind of yell at Justin, which is what I've been doing for probably like 10+ years. Justin, we got to do this thing. Hey, Justin, we got to do this thing. And he's like, oh, what now? And then totally blowing out his train of thought. He's out of flow. He can't, I know myself, like, all of us are, I mean, this almost this acceleration of work getting done in a way that's different. And so, I mean, the collaboration is unbelievable. And, I've been saying this for a while. I think that, this happened 5 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to have this outcome of being able to this collaborations work. I mean, it's almost like the, dog eating wagging its own tail, or, that sort of, whatever that saying is. But Justin, I mean, you and I talked about
I mean, it's not just the tool sets that are there now weren't there, but not just that. I think also it's more effectively using the tools that have always been there. I mean, one of the things that we've all had Outlook with calendars forever, and when we're all in the same office together, it was really easy to just do the shoulder tap, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to walk over and talk to this person about what's going on. But with that not being an option anymore, becomes, let me look at the scheduling assistant in Outlook, find when I can book 15 minutes for these people, have this meeting, this conversation that we need to have. Or if it is that shoulder tap thing, it's in Teams, in chat, or Hangouts or Slack or whatever you're using. But it's a communication method that's a little less disruptive, because if I send somebody a Teams message, I'm not expecting them to respond right away necessarily.
Correct.
If they're in the middle of something, they'll get to it when they get to it, just like sending any other kind of message. And if I need to talk to somebody, I can schedule it. And these are things that we could have been doing before. There was nothing preventing us from doing that. It just wasn't part of our day-to-day culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It really is. It's really unbelievable. It's really and this is scheduling that time and allocating time. Like in some days, it's interesting. I mean, there's some shifts of how your schedule goes, but I mean, I have a lot more meetings. I mean, I had a meeting this morning with a client. It was in between morning prep work and this stuff, and you never would have had that ability, because it would have been, I'm going to have a 40-minute travel time for a half-an-hour meeting and a 40-minute travel time back. So this collaboration, the collaboration is more than just internal, but it's also with our clients and with our and getting them to be more a partnership with them. So it's really powerful stuff. And I think that it's a matter of a producer said, I've had more meetings in the past 4 months than all 20 years I've worked, and I think he's right, because everything was these like chance interactions. And now you don't have that, and in some ways it's bad, in some ways it's good. And once again, not everything is perfect, but it's a really powerful thing with collaboration. The other thing I think is really important is data is changed. What we're doing with data, like what you can't rely on looking over someone's shoulder to see what they're doing. So you have to rely on the data to tell you. It's like you went from being like visual flight rules to foul weather. Like you have to know, you trust the gauges. And people have been talking about that for years, and building a culture around metrics. But now we have to. But there's no choice left to, but not doing metrics. All these analytics. Even if it's as in that internally and that sort of thing. For yourself, your analytics. How much time am I spending in meetings? How much free time do I have? That's a great power of the my analyst thing.
Yeah, so. I think also with cloud data, it makes it easier for you to scale up and scale down easier. It used to be we would build out a physical server and we'd have to plan based on their past growth, how much they're going to grow in the next 3 to 5 years to make sure they had space. But now, I mean, while we still want to plan ahead, it's very easy if there is a thing that suddenly makes you a downshift for you to reduce your costs. Or if you get a nice boom, you get that huge client and you need to double your workforce, you can increase your data storage really easily with the cloud. So that's an interesting shift as well.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, we used to run a data center for years, and it was always like this, like this delicate balance of how much can we add in, how much overhead do we need to have, and every month was a meeting around like, hey, next month is the month we're going to have to buy more storage, or whatever it was, or more compute. And now it's really changed. And beyond that, even just the way people collaborate, and this the way that data is being collaborated with, and you moving around and protected. It's unbelievable. And I think the other thing that's really like so I've seen it changes. The way you communicate has to change a lot. Like you have to talk to people differently in a way that has been more determined. I've seen them use kick their own a lot. And I think it's good. It is more democratic. Like people have to know where metrics are, where the company stands, because you don't have that kind of like group dynamic that you have sitting in the office, like, hey, what's going on over there? And things going well. So people get more isolated. So you have to really start thinking about how do we relay what's going on, and being open to lines of communication differently. Something we're working on every day at Valiant. I think about, it's kind of one of the things that I think about all the time. I know JP and I talked about it, Mary and I talked about it. So we're doing some dedicated time around it. So it's really interesting. So these are some of the whys and thought processes, but really, what are the tools? What's the technology? What's the underlying bits about it? And obviously, this is going to be a kind of a drive-by and prep for our much longer. Yeah. So, but I mean, Justin, like you work so much on this technology. What do you think how do you feel it's going? What's our workflow? I mean, this is your area of expertise.
Yeah. So I mean, the biggest shift that we've seen. And really, we've the interesting thing is that we've seen a lot of the pieces and trends were there prior to this year, and the real force, the real issue that forced everybody to change. But the tools and the techniques and the technology was already there and was just not necessarily used until we had a real reason to. And the biggest for that, I mean, we see everybody's got mobile devices. Everybody has internet at home. And I say everybody, but at least in
the
our
majority of
business,
people.
for business use. But yeah,
knowledge workers, the people who
there's people have access to the internet in a way that they didn't before. So they have access to that stream of data, and really all you need at that point then is a way to get them that stuff. And we've seen G Suite, Office 365, Dropbox, those kinds of services have been around for a long time and really took off now because people are remote. It's like, well, I'm not using my file server. I'm not using my desktop in the office. I'm at home, and all I have is my mobile device, but I can still get to the content that I need because it's in a place that that's accessible. So that, I think, was all there already. It just we didn't have a real reason to embrace it in the way that we have.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think if like in all things, it just changed so much. But part of the issue is, are we, beyond the technology? Are we investing in our staff? Are we actually utilizing the tools the way we had in the past? I mean, that's one thing that Marianne thinks about all the time. We talk about it. It's like, it's what you do is like, how do you maximize this investment? How do you maximize, because investment is tools are only one part, but the person to operate the tool is just as important. I mean, some of the numbers that we've seen, 68% of workers say that training is important. 55% said they could professionally advance if they had training. And I know how we look at it. I think training is such a critical step of any company, but if you don't train, you don't reinvest that time and energy into learning new things, it becomes stagnant. And and now we're forced to, which is great. Sometimes you don't evolve without an outside influence. So
and especially for tools and things you have already, it's there if you just aren't using it. Yeah, sorry, Marianne, go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say. So you, like we said, you have the tools. I mean, how many people have had Office 365 before they had majority of people working from home, and they could have been doing that stuff beforehand? It's actually really great that once people know how to use it, you're actually using the tools that you are paying for. So.
That's the thing. I mean, and I think that a lot of I think the one I've heard it been said that when people think the entree into something, Office 365 is the small cost of the license, but the real value is all the things that you can do with that license, and what can you unlock with that access to those tools. That's really what their value is, not just hey, it's a $20 a month license. That's inconsequential. It's really what it can happen. So it's really cool.
The other trend we've seen with that too is not just for those, core Office documents like Word, Excel, PowerPoint type stuff, or do the G Suite side, that kind of stuff, but we've seen in terms of other applications moving towards the SaaS model, where it's you don't have a server running an application that you run on your computer. You go to a website that does it, and that has been happening over the last 5-10 years, but really enables this same modern workplace in the same way, in that if you can log into a web page and on that web page do all the things that you would have done otherwise, you don't have to have those tools, and you can do it from anywhere.
Right.
And it's a lot of the SaaS is software as a service, so a lot of it ends up being you're getting subscriptions for these things instead of having to buy the new one when it comes out, or just not having the most modern version. So.
Right. And it's interesting. It kind of leads us to the next part, which is it doesn't change the fundamentals of how technology is deployed in a company. There's so much. There's so much. It's actually what happened is this opening up has made it more dangerous in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There's no more. The term that we see kicked around that we use and I think the industry kind of has adopted is perimeterless security, because you really don't know where anyone's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea, JP, if you happen to be in, Indiana tomorrow, I would have no mechanism to know, nor would I really care. I mean, I hope you enjoy Indiana, but I mean, reality is it doesn't matter, because the work I was having the ability for the mobile devices, having the ability to have the data be protected, and that's really what it comes down to, is us having to build new solutions and new processes, and changing people's outlook on the data protection and process around that. So that's what
Yeah, no, what's interesting about that too is that those technologies and those pieces have been there as well. There just hasn't been the same need for it. That
right.
the biggest things around, I mean, I'd say there's three big things that become essential with a distributed workforce like this, where first is just mobile device management, which has been around for a long time. And we're really seeing that encompass computers as well as phones, that computers are being treated as mobile devices, because the idea is that maybe you're bringing your own device, maybe you're using your own
exactly.
Your own system rather than a corporate system. So you want to have some kind of protection for your data for that. We're seeing data loss prevention tools, which are really powerful in cloud environments because they're centrally controlled by the cloud. So you're seeing ways to protect data in, like, this is a sensitive file. I need to know where this file is and be able to, wipe this file from anything, regardless of where it is, as opposed to just trying to keep it inside the network.
Yeah.
And
I think how many years did we spend building these elaborate access control rules for folks, and in the end they put it on a thumb drive and take it out with them, and then you multiply out writ large for for cloud files. I mean, we just did a webinar last week around, or a live stream last week around how people didn't really understand how Google shared files.
Yeah.
And Marianne and I didn't even understand it. It was just so complicated. And then you apply that to an organization, and then you have data everywhere that could be, that's either a PII, potentially sensitive. I mean, you don't want your financials out and about. You don't want salaries or that, and the DLP prevents that. And that's such a dangerous. It's such a dangerous thing that you kind of like pause in your tracks and say, "Whoa." You don't want the data getting out. It's really scary.
Yeah.
I'm scared now. I'm scared.
But it's one of those things that the tools are there. That's the tools and technology are already there. These aren't problems that we have to come up with ways to solve. There already are pieces to solve them. It just wasn't seen as necessary as it is now. It's like,
and it's also having someone who knows all the different factors can put that together. I mean, it's pretty easy to have a Google Drive account, but it's important to know what the share permissions are, how you're going to be collaborating, and other things like that. So it's pretty easy to have everyone working from home, but do you need to figure out security when it comes to that? So
right, exactly. And the last thing is JP, is that there's the idea of what's happening inside the network at any given time. I mean, because the network is everywhere at all times, and that's a simmer of sock, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally you would have like a SIM collecting logs to show you everything that's going on inside your network, so you know everything that's there. But now inside your network, it doesn't necessarily exist anymore, because what's going on inside our office network at the office right now? Nothing, because nobody's there. If there was going to be a data breach, that's not where it would be. So those tools then get extended to your workstation. So you have a system on, attached to your cloud storage. You have a system attached to your laptop, your desktop, that reports back to those same tools. So the centralized logging and monitoring tools are still there, but you collect different data for that. So it's again not something new, just a different approach to it.
Yeah, and we kind of go more in depth about the SIM and the SOC and all this security stuff in our security best practices webinar. So that's a really good comprehensive one if you want to check that out.
It definitely breaks it down in a way there's a lot of acronyms, and a lot of people throw things at you what you need, but we really want to break down into it. And this is something we've been really working on internally at Valiant for a long time now, for many, many months. And we put together, and one thing we think is important is A, presenting data, and B, making it simple for people to scale up, scale down. And we think one of the future places to work on is virtual desktops. And I know we built a solution around that, where everything kind of lives in you can access it from a browser, you can access it from a mobile device, you can access it from everything. It's
and
and
it's
so
the same. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, this is a combination of Windows Virtual Desktop, Office 365, and some other tools that we put into it to really lock it down and have a way to have all of that stuff in one place. And if I can show you guys real quick, I actually have something pulled up. That,
all right,
see
JP, let's
if I
take a
can
look.
share my screen. So I've got a Windows 10 desktop here. This is the document that we use for this live stream. I've been following my notes here, but this is all in a Chrome tab, just on my machine, and it's full Windows 10. I can run stuff on it. This is actually syncing to my desktop that I'm on here, my laptop desktop. These are the same files back and forth, and it is set up so that it's fully locked down. It's secure. Anything that's on here, we can keep track of where the data is going. I mean, these are all tools that already existed. It's just putting it together in a way that makes it
Exactly.
easy to use and easy to gain
Easy
access
and
to.
secure.
Especially at
Yeah.
DLP.
Yeah, definitely. Like
that's right.
I'm sure that you can mark the sensitivity of a document, and then it's protected. You can do whether or not it's allowed to be downloaded. All that stuff is just configured out of the box for it, so that it's just easy to use.
That's the trick. And
you don't necessarily.
Oh, go ahead, Mary. Sorry.
Sorry, I just said you don't necessarily have to really lock down the computer you're on. If you are sometimes I tell people the modern workplace, great. If you're over at a relative's house and you actually just something happened, you need to access your stuff, you can log into your account on the web in a lot of situations. But if you really need to get to your desktop and you also need it secure, that's when the Valiant Anywhere, the remote desktop, really comes into play. So that's
exactly. It's very
and
powerful stuff.
I've definitely, especially while we were first developing it and putting stuff together in our testing, I will admit that's how I tested it a couple of times, where it's like, well, I'm just not going to bring my laptop. I'm going to leave my laptop here. I know there's a computer where I'm going, and if I really need to get something, I can log in and do it through there. And nobody noticed that I wasn't on my laptop. I was on the cloud version.
That's the point of it. That's literally the point of it. And this is why we've been working on this for quite some time, and it's ready to go. And we really want people to take a look at it and stuff. And
I was just say I love that when I first started working, I had someone explain to me that computers used to be really going to a mainframe, and then they got back to the computers themselves were the powerful thing, and it was more individualized. And someone, I think it was actually JP, said to me, but we're moving into it going back in that direction where people are going to have simple devices, and it's almost like going back to the almost the mainframe, but it's not anymore. It's now cloud and it's secure. So I think it's really good that it's
very cyclical. Exactly.
You could get a tablet that you use for Netflix and use that to connect to your desktop or connect to your server and do your work on that.
But it's all good. It's great. It's a great solution. But what is it all going to go to though? What's next? What's the benefit for a company though? I mean, why would a company say great? And so instead of saying just come back to the office, which is really so I really want to get what's next? I think I think the first thing is JP. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for years. What do you think it is?
Well, I mean, there's two competing ones. The first one, I think, is it frees up the ability to hire people or to work for a place based more on your skill or your alignment with that company's culture than just your physical location. That if I left Valiant for whatever reason and had to go work somewhere else, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a New York Bay. I want to live in New York because I like it here, but I could work for a company. Or let's go the other way. Let's say I have to move to California for some reason. I could still do my job at Valiant without
Correct.
having to physically be there anywhere near as often as I'd have to. And then even for the rest of it, the other one that's been big, I mean, just for me personally, I was the biggest holdout from
You really
work from
were.
home. It took George, Gene, Nick, and Chris standing in my office to say, you really shouldn't come. We're not coming into the office anymore. You shouldn't either. For me to say, okay, I'll try. But I'm totally sold on it. The extra 3 hours back that I get every day from commuting is great, and I'm looking forward to being able to go back to the office when we can go back in. But I'm definitely not doing every day in the office anymore. It's at least a couple of days a week. I'm going to reclaim that time, and it's been just wonderful. More stuff that I can get done in the day. And not just the work stuff that I can get done, the more stuff that I can do
to take care of yourself.
Exactly. That work-life balance makes it a lot easier when I don't have an hour and a half of nothing time, of lost time where I can just
I've had time to exercise. I haven't been, but I've had
time.
I mean, it's actually interesting, like in terms of even just like you laugh at meal prep. Before our live stream, we were talking about taking takeout, and I was really excited at takeout food. I haven't gotten takeout in months, and but you so much more time for like cooking properly or work or just doing stuff you want to do. Spend time with your family, take care of your children, take care of your friends. And don't indulge in your hobby. Have your hobby to be part of your life. I think about 3 hours back a week, 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week. You start doing the math.
That's a lot.
It's 60 hours a month.
And going back to the talent pool, I mean, I've looked at jobs and been like, you know what? No, because my commute's going to be, more than an hour. But if I don't need to make that commute, I'm more likely to apply to that. And then, that company could have had wonderful me if they allowed me to work from home.
It's true.
Lucky for us, they didn't.
It's true. It's very true. And I think that's going to be a massive change. And there's companies that have come embraced this early on, and they do have a bit of they have a bit of advantage. But I think a lot of companies are going to really, really accelerate this and get moving. And it's going to go fast. And the talent access and that sort of thing is going to be unbelievable. And we have a great comment from Mr. Stephen Kaup. What particular aspect of technology do you think needs or will get better for this new modern workplace to be even better? That's a great question, Steph.
I think honestly the biggest roadblock right now is personal internet access. That there are I'm lucky in that I'm close enough to Manhattan that I have a decent internet connection, and if I don't like it, I can there is another provider in the area. But there are plenty of places where that's not the case, where there's one provider and whatever it is what it is. And that's really the exciting push for 5G coverage, to have this fast internet access that you can get that's easier to deploy, so you don't have to run cable or fiber to everybody's house. So to use the existing infrastructure to get that high-speed connection, that's going to be the biggest driving force, I think, because once you could be anywhere and have gigabit internet, that was sci-fi for so long, and it's going to be reality.
Right. So personally, I think a lot of it, I don't know about you, but I think a lot of it's going to be culture of the company. It has to change. I think that people have to start changing their metrics and evaluations of performance to one that is more upfront and clear, as opposed to this kind of like nebulous, you're doing a good job, thanks a lot. Whereas like, what does that mean? And am I doing a good job? And I think a lot of management has to change their mindsets of what work means and get them more results. There was for a while, it seemed like there was a real push towards results. And then a couple of years ago, I think there was a push back against results. But I think this is going to force it to one way or another. And it has to be about just being very upfront and clear in a way that you wouldn't have to be in the past, where you can, and the other thing I think is important is not muddling through 8-hour day. When you're driving results, it's much more about, it doesn't matter how long it takes per se, depending on what your role is, but really delivering the end product to your customers and to your staff. I don't know if you guys think, but
well, it's like the old joke where the new guy comes in and is working really efficiently, and everyone's like, "Slow down, because you're making us look bad. We're just gonna ride out this 8-hour day." But that's not gonna happen anymore, because you're gonna be measuring results, and if it only takes them 4 hours, they're gonna do it, and you're gonna have that stuff in 4 hours.
Yeah, there's more just like agency for the employee. Like George, you asked us all to define our personal KPIs and what it means for us, and I loved that, because I was like, I'm not just deferring to my superiors. I have to be more intentional with how I contribute as well.
Absolutely. And it's actually, it's really interesting how that this study after study shows that that's one of the key things for people to have satisfaction in the work is sense of agency and direction and purpose. Because if you just do Homer Simpson pressing the button every day, you can get real tired of it real fast. I know myself that I have pretty limited patience for that, and I think you all as well. So just obviously we're just scratching the surface here. And we have a ton of content we're going to put together for the webinar next week, but would love everyone to join us. Love any questions around this. We think it's such a critical shift in companies, and we're going to do a little more deeper dive into technology and how it works, so that it's clearer, things that are actionable versus just theoretical. But we wanted to kind of play with this a little bit today as a team and just discuss it from a theoretical perspective, and we're going to do a little bit more of that as well. But I think it's such a big topic. This one is not going to end anytime soon. So
cool. And that's Thursday, July 9th, right?
Thursday, July 9th. That's correct.
Cool.
That's right. So yes, it's next week, and then we're going to do a actually kind of exciting, and Megan kind of previewed it a little bit in what she said before. We're going to talk next week. Our next session is going to be about how Valiant does it, things that we do internally to kind of have a better remote work culture, B, things that we're experimenting with, because everything's an experiment. We really want to see what happens, kind of challenge our own assumptions about how things work or not working, and get feedback and, iteratively make it better. And that's really what we're doing about this modern workplace and kind of everything day to day. And thank you. I really appreciate you guys' input. It was really, really fun today.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a good one.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Please send us any questions you have. Please join the webinar next week. Like and subscribe. It really matters. More gets out there, the better job we can do, the better feedback we have, the better job we can do. And we just want to keep delivering some really good content and hopefully some good solutions for everybody. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.